Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm so excited about this conversation. We have a regular that's been on the podcast a few times. A good friend of mine, Dr. Kimberling. Dr. Kim, thanks for joining us today.
It's always good to see you, Nils. Love our friendship. Love what you guys do. And so, yeah, it's great to connect through this. Absolutely.
Yes, I can only imagine that Dr. Kim, you and I probably recorded almost 100 podcasts together through the years.
At least.
In different ways. So if you don't listen to the Awesome Marriage podcast, you need to go listen to that. So stop what you're listening to right now and go subscribe to that. And Dr. Kim, I think you are about to release a new podcast or have already launched a new podcast. Is that the case?
The Better Man, and it's designed for men. And we're in our second year. We just hit our biggest month ever in December, and so it's gaining traction. But I'm on with Pastor Colby Taylor, and we talk about things that have to do with guys, and we try to have some fun while we do it and give guys really not just to talk about it, but to give them a practical step that they can do something, be the man God created them to be. That's the whole point of it.
I love it. So there's two podcasts. If you're a man or if you know a man, go send them to the Better Man podcast. That's a must listen to. I say it's a must. I haven't listened, obviously. So I need to go. I'm going to go subscribe. I'm not going to pause this conversation, though.
No, I think people will enjoy both of them. We've got some great comments from men, and ladies can listen too, obviously, but it's designed really to help men.
Good. Well, we are here talking about a project you and I have worked on together, the online marriage retreat. And I'll give a little background to what we did. Those that listen know that I'm the online guy. That's what I do. And I launched onlinechurch.com. And that's how you and I connected as you were really building your online ministry, and our friends at Life Church connected us. Yep. It has been a really fun ride. And my sister, back in March of April, because it was right. Our birthdays, she's April 14th, I'm April 17th. And it was right between our birthdays. I remember we were just catching up. Yeah, and she said, "What do you think about doing an online retreat for women?" Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." We did it, and one of the things she asked me at that is, "Do you know somebody who could speak into marriages?" I'm like, "That, who can speak into marriage?" Dr. Kim is in, and so you jumped in. You did a presentation at that retreat. We saw over 8,000 women.
It was amazing,
incredible. The one of the most listened to sessions was your lesson, and I think we saw in the comment thread how significant that was. Becky actually then went and did a separate interview with you for her podcast because of the response that she saw to that session. And so then you and I said, let's do an online marriage retreat because there's such a significant need. We've seen hundreds of people go through that retreat, and now we're kind of, that's still there. People can still go through that. I'm going to do this on the spot. If you are listening to this and you are married, we want to give you a 50% off. So if you do SMC, let's see, SMC podcast, we'll make that the coupon code. I just made that up on the fly. Nice. And so you can go be ministered to. That conference content is incredible. But what we want to do now, what we're learning after the hundreds that have gone through it, is it's better together. And so we want churches to be able to use this resource, bring it into their churches, and help marriages in their churches, in the life of their churches. So I want to talk about what the retreat is and all of that. But first, what's the state of marriages right now in 2021?
I think people are struggling. I think for a lot of different reasons. Certainly the change of COVID. I met with a couple last year. They got married right before COVID, and we were just talking through this year. He had a job change, COVID, all these kind of things they had to work through. So it has affected all of us in some way. And what I've kind of seen, the people I've worked with, the people that were kind of struggling already continued to struggle. It was hard to get traction going in the right direction. Some of the key couples I had that had really made progress really used, especially those days when we were all staying in all the time, in a real positive way to grow their marriage. But overall, we don't seem as a culture to value marriage as much as we used to. We know there's a high divorce rate. We know people are getting married later. People want to develop careers first. So the longer we're single, I think it's the harder it is to get married in a lot of ways, because we develop some really not bad habits, but that they don't fit in a marriage relationship. So I think overall, couples need help for marriage. And I think we saw that in the response, and we see that in Awesome Marriage. Last year was our biggest year ever, biggest growth, the year in the midst of COVID. And I think people realize, man, we got to do something or we're not going to make it through this. And so the stuff that we've done, certainly the online marriage retreat has gotten great. We have such a great lineup of speakers. We've got like 24 speakers, and they are incredible. And each one has their own specific topic and that they're an expert in. And so I think it's not only encouraging, I think it will give people a lot of next steps to improve their marriage relationship.
Yeah, it's and I've, you and I, and I've been privileged to be on the Awesome Marriage podcast many times. Transparently, it's one of the things I love about you and Nancy. You transparently shared from your marriage, but marriage is tough, and I think you in ministry, we often want to pretend like we've got it together.
Yeah.
And that and Katie and I have a great marriage, but I'm a stubborn guy, and I do dumb things, and she's got to put up with it, and she's stubborn, and we clash, at times, and we do life. I mean, but there's anybody who's honest, needs help with their marriage, and I think that's one of the things I've loved in you and I was helping you online, but I was helped way more by you in my marriage than I could ever help you with online. And so it just investing in your marriage is so key. I talk about Pete Scazzaro a lot, and he always says we lead out of our marriage or our singleness. And,
yeah, excellent. And Pete's a part of our retreat too.
Totally. Yeah, I forgot Pete is a part of the retreat. What, maybe from the retreat, what were some of your favorite sessions?
Oh gosh, everyone I listened to was my favorite at that time. Honestly, I mean, of course, Chris and Cindy Bill have an amazing story of what God does, and the healing takes place when a guy really goes off the rails, like Chris did at one point in their marriage. Jim Burns has been a good friend for a long time, so everything Jim does, I love. Joshua Rogers is a new friend, and he's doing some good stuff. Just a lot of people that just. So my favorite. Oh man, the Enneagram guys, Beth and Jeff McCord, are awesome. Colby and Amanda Colby, who does the Better Men with us, he and his wife have a ministry, and they did one. So I'll probably get in trouble if I do. I love Deborah Follett. Deborah Follett, she's been a good friend for a long time. I love what she does. So those would be the ones that would come to mind. But I didn't listen to one and thought, well, I just wasted my time. No, it wasn't like that on all of it. And the key for marriage is being intentional anyway. One of our biggest deals that you were helped start was a one thing email.
Yeah.
And it's just one thing that you can do for your marriage each day. And that has been something that guys have loved. And I think we've seen great results with that because it's just getting people to be intentional. It's not rocket science to have a good marriage. It's just doing what you're supposed to do every day. And it makes a difference.
Yes. I have been getting the one thing email for, I don't know, 4 years now.
Yeah, probably.
And it's been, as a man, I need to be reminded every day,
Yes.
and those little and honestly, having, reading them daily for so long, they're not, they're reminders in many ways
Right.
of things I know I should do, but I forget to do. And I think those nudges are so key. I do want to give you a plug on that one thing email. If you're not on that list in your marriage, you need to get on that list as well. So one thing email. And I think it's a good marketing thing too. When you look at, when you just look at one thing email and how Dr. Kim has set that up, I think churches can learn from how you've even set up that and how you're ministering to marriages, and how churches can even use that kind of communication stream to minister to different groups within their church. One of the things we did, Dr. Kim, was we set up this retreat to not be a live retreat. We set up this retreat to be an on-demand retreat, essentially for couples to do on their own, to pick the sessions they want to watch, and not, it's probably about 24 hours worth of content. So you can't watch it all even in a weekend.
No.
And
shouldn't try to.
No, and I think the other thing is we give it to them for life, and so they can watch it again in a year or 2 years, and so it's a wealth of valuable marriage advice, tips, and really our intention is that that a married couple go and take a weekend and just use this as a resource to get together and watch and process and watch and process, and then maybe a rewatch. But to intentionally go through it at their pace and not at a forced pace that that doesn't fit them. And so then a church can obviously take that same thing and either pick times that they can watch. I'm curious, Dr. Kim, as you think about a church going through the online marriage retreat, how would you see them best utilizing this resource within the life of the church?
What we hope we've done is come up with like 3 different ideas for churches that we provide everything for them, from promotional, all that kind of stuff, to kind of fit the church. I love small groups, so I think a church that would use this and make that available to small groups, if they do that, the members get I think it's 50% off registration on it, which is really good. So that, I know some churches love, I think one of the things, every time I've done a marriage retreat, after everyone, the pastor or whoever's in charge of it says, I don't know why we don't do these more often, because they see the difference in the few months after it. They see the difference of in couples, and it's not the church's fault, but we don't talk enough about marriage usually. And so this is a way where you could do, if you want to do a weekend retreat, and you show some of the videos and have people come and you show them at your church, you can do that. You can do it all online. There's just so many versatile ways. I think another way that I think it'd be good is you can jump start it. Maybe you have a weekend deal and you show some of the videos, and then you make them available for small groups after that. Or there's just, in each speaker has their own set of questions and things for couples to talk about and grow into. So I think there's, I just love the way it's set up, because, and I give Nils and our Christina Dodson credit on that, because I didn't have anything to do with that. And I thought, man, this really looks good. I think it's a way to get something in churches to do a marriage retreat or focus on marriage in an easy way. When, if you just decide, yeah, we need a marriage retreat, where do we even start? And then you have to, well, do we bring somebody in, and can we afford that? And this is also affordable and so easy. And the technology, it's just great what technology can do for us, is communicating God's truth about things, and then God's truth about marriage.
I love it. It's and I cannot emphasize this enough. I think about Katie and I, the times we've taken those breaks, and we have seasons of doing marriage counseling, and often we need that definitive locked in time to just even pause and focus on each other. And I think that's what, and if there's any miss in what I feel like I've seen in some of these online retreats that I've helped to put on, is that when you have it on demand, sometimes you think you'll do it later. And I think what I can't recommend enough is that you need to commit time to this. And so your church members need to commit time to their marriages. And when you can help them and give them kind of definitive direction as to how they can do that, it's going to minister to your congregation in such a significant way. And what you don't have to do is find speakers, and what you don't have to do is do branding, and literally it's in a box, but it's not a box, it's in a cloud. You get your own little get your own little cloud, your digital cloud, conference in a cloud.
That's great. So far, I know out of when we debuted it in October, a pastor, or actually he was the head of small groups in his church, and though he just set up I think it was a Tuesday, Wednesday night group, and invited couples, and they went through one at a time. He picked, and they did this for 6 or 8 weeks, and then tried to get them into other small groups to continue using it. But it's a way to jumpstart people being intentional about marriage. I guarantee you, if you get your church focused on improving their marriages, you will be amazed what happens in your church over a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just will.
And so because this audience is primarily pastors, executive pastors, volunteer leaders, I would assume pastors are having the same marriage challenges as non-pastors. You would probably know best. What advice would you have to pastors?
Yeah, I think so, because I think this has been a horribly stressful year for pastors. And I've heard some great stories of how God has just come through, how churches that have prospered through this, have been able to help other churches. But I know they're stressed, and they're stressed on a pastor's marriage so much all the time. And like you alluded to, the expectation sometimes that the congregation or the people or a pastor himself puts on himself to be perfect.
Yep.
So there's all that pressure, all that stress, and that gets reflected in your marriage. And I had a family I worked with. It's been a number of years ago now, but he was a pastor, good pastor, but he was a very different person at home than he was at church.
Mhm.
And his daughter's the one who told him on him to me. And so we talked about that, and he said, "Well, no, I just can't be transparent," and
Yep.
they're encouraging him to do that. But when we hold on, what I'm saying is, when we hold all that stuff in, it's going to come out sideways. And usually, for me, I think for most men, it comes out at our wives,
Yeah.
because they're the safest place for us to do that. They're not going to fire you,
Yeah.
those kind of things. And so, I think pastors that spend that time, designated time for their marriage, you see a big difference in them and their ministry.
100%. I've got a question. I should have probably prepped you for this question, put you on the spot here.
You never
Have you
have prepped
read
me.
my man Mike Todd's book, Relationship Goals, yet?
I have not.
You have not.
I
Okay.
have
I'm
not,
curious
but
to get your
I've read
thoughts
that.
after you read it.
I did the YouVersion plan
Okay.
that Michael did, and of course I love him. I love what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have not read it yet. It's in my, I think it's in my queue, and so I got to move it. I'll move it up there.
Okay. I'm curious to get your thoughts after you read it. It's been exciting for me to see, because I feel like in this season it's been New York Times best-selling book.
Yeah.
People are prioritizing their relationships, and their dating relationships and their marriage relationships, and trying to get healthier. And I think this is such a challenging season, though. I've in here in New York, we the suicide rate, we're having a significant surge. It feels like every day we're hearing of another somebody jumping off a building, or just crazy stuff that and that's happening with single people, and I think that's happening with married people.
Yeah, I do too.
That creep, and sometimes it's severe like suicide, and sometimes it's just anxiety that gets released in different ways. And so I just gosh, I want I want everybody to do this and to experience this.
Yeah.
Just maybe take it to the next level with the online marriage retreat. If you can't afford the half price discount, reach out to me personally, and I'll get you a full price discount. I just want everyone to
want
this content.
Exactly, to just to take advantage of that. And because in this time of stress, it comes out in different ways. And you mentioned the extreme thing of suicide, but I see people making bad choices. Got people maybe walked away from alcohol for a long time, walk back into it. People have had affairs. People have gotten back into pornography, and it's all like, so let's take that energy and focus it on your marriage and see what happens. See the difference it could make.
Let's and we can go down the rabbit hole. Then you brought it up, and I've heard that COVID has created a surge of pornography as well. I feel like pornography is that hidden sin for a lot of pastors, ministry leaders, obviously just men in general, but I guess women too. What for a man, husband who is struggling with pornography, or wife, I guess, and how do they break that habit, and how honest should they be with their spouse in navigating that? And maybe even how should pastors be approaching pornography in leading their congregation?
The church. I think if we don't address it, we're missing something. It is something, I think it's so prevalent. I think we're going to have some stats probably that come out of 2020 that will confirm all the things that most of us suspect are really going on. If it's a guy that's into it or pastored into it, my experience is you don't get out of it alone. Now, that's not diminishing God, but I think this is where God really uses people in your life. You need somebody to be accountable to. You need somebody that's been through it, that can help walk you through it, that you can't fool, that'll get in your face and ask you the real questions about it and help you do that. Certainly then developing your relationship with God, reading the things in scripture about God's plan for marriage. I mean, all pornography does, it totally distorts God's plan for sex and marriage and all those things that are so good. And a couple guys that I've worked with that dig into that and have struggled with it, but begin to see God's plan, begin to invest in their physical relationship with their wife, treating her well. I had one guy tell me, he said, I'm just not attracted to pornography more because of what we've done in our marriage. And so that's what I want for people. It's not just can I grit my teeth and not click? It's like, I don't want to click anymore because I've got this and I invested in my wife. So I think you got to have accountability. Small groups are great. XXX.com has all kinds of things. If you want to be a little anonymous, you can get in one of their online groups, and I've had people that I've worked with been in those. That's a great place to start. But I think it's making that first deal and realize this is not the best thing for me. I think as pastors, gently addressing it, not that it's something that we tiptoe around, but I mean, it's so prevalent. I would guarantee, I would bet if a pastor asked every man or woman in the congregation that's into pornography or has looked at pornography in the last year to stand up, I don't think there'd be many people sitting down.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to correct you though on one thing. XXX.com is not their site. It's XXXchurch.com.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Thank you.
I would recommend that you not go to XXX.com because I just pulled it up and it pulled up my little filter. And so
Good. Yes, I'm glad you caught that because I don't know why I left the church part out of it. But that was one of the things that I can't think of the name. Greg Gross, is that right? Who started XXXchurch.com, was in the porn industry. He knows the ins and outs and backs and forth. He still communicates friends with those people.
Yeah.
But he said, so we'll put something when people are putting those X's in, our church will pop up. And so that was a great way to get some people into that.
It's been a gift to so many, and that's the filter. I got it off of their website.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You brought that up. I think as guys, we need whatever. If you're vulnerable in an area, plug the hole some way. Filters. There's good stuff out there. Honestly, you can probably work around anything if you want to, but most of us just need that to stop and think. And I think the filters make you stop and think, no, I don't really want to do that because most of it's impulsive. In the guys that I talk to, and so. Yeah, I think it's a big issue. It's not something we address. I don't know if anybody addresses in the retreat. I don't think they do. I do. I think I talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is a big deal, and and I think for pastors, anyone, it's just making the decision. I got to quit this. It's just like any 12-step thing. You got to admit you got a problem first.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. I appreciate you letting me go down that rabbit hole a little bit. I hope for somebody listening that's caught your attention.
Absolutely.
And I hope too that you will prioritize discussing it within the life of your church.
Yeah, you did mention about what do you do with your wife? I think wives need to know. I don't know that they need to know the depth of it. What I think a wife would be encouraged by, it's going to hurt her. I mean, because women take it very, very personal. It's like, you got me. Why are you looking at that? I've heard that phrase in one way or another so many times. But I think if you're able to say, I have been there, I'm going to make the step out of it. I've already got an accountability partner.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. And I just need you to pray for me during this, because she doesn't need to be your accountability partner. That puts her in a really difficult situation.
That's a great word. Well, Dr. Kim, thanks so much for taking the time. If I want to just reiterate, onlinemarriageretreat.com. You can go there to get more information about the retreat. Dr. Kim, where can people connect with you online? You're across all the social media.
Yes, in all social media. Most of them is at Kim Kimberling or at Dr. Kim. The awesomemarriage.com. You can find all of our resources there. We have so many free resources that we give out to churches and individuals, all those kind of things. We do premarital counseling online. We've got a number of things and our whole goal is just to continue to do the things that help people have the marriages God intended for them, and for the people in your church to have the marriage that God intended for them.
Yeah. So online, awesomemarriage.com
yes.
is where that link is. Onething.email is the thing that we were talking about earlier. I mean, hundreds of thousands of marriages being impacted through Awesome Marriage. So grateful for your friendship, Dr. Kim, grateful for your partnership, and grateful for your time today.
It's been fun. It's always fun to talk, and you and I can find rabbit holes everywhere, and it's always fun to go down a few.